I'm here to eat my crow. I'm here to eat my crow when it comes to the Alabama Crimson Tide. I can take you all the way back, guys, to this summer. This summer, I went to SEC Media Days for the first time in my entire life. It was a fantastic experience. The week of SEC Media Days and throughout the summer, I forget the exact date, I gave my predictions for each and every single SEC team this year. Okay? East, West, what have you. Gave my predictions for every single SEC team. Picked each division. Picked conference champion, of course. I picked LSU to win the West. Picked Georgia to win the title. I picked Alabama to go 9-3 this season. I picked against Alabama multiple times this season. Once I was right. Picked them to lose at Texas, right? I think a lot of folks had that pick. But either way, I picked Alabama to lose to Texas A&M. I picked Alabama to lose to Georgia. I picked Alabama to lose, I think, one other game that I'm not even recalling. To LSU. Picked them to lose to LSU. I picked Alabama to lose 4 times this season. 4 total times. And as we sit here on the Monday after the SEC championship, Alabama fans, Alabama faithful, I'm here to eat crow because I was wrong. I was dead wrong on Alabama. I bought some of the offseason. The dynasty is dying. Kirby Smart and Georgia are taking over. I drank a little too much of that Kool-Aid. And Alabama did what they do best. Nick Saban did what he does best. I doubted the GOAT, admittedly. And I am man enough to sit here today and tell you all that I was wrong. I was wrong. Alabama takes down Georgia 27-24 in an SEC title game that really, guys, outside of that opening drive for Georgia, Bama controlled. Bama controlled that football game. And I think what was so impressive, right? I mean, we can talk about, guys, plenty, the growth of Alabama from the Texas and USF games to now, the transformation, really, of that football team, the growth of Jalen Milroe, the growth of each coach on that coaching staff into their respective roles, coaching that team up to that point. But what we saw on Saturday was typical Alabama. And a Georgia team and a Georgia program that still got that monkey on your back. That Nick Saban Alabama monkey is still there. And it's still large and it's still looming. First off, guys, what an incredible game this was. Back and forth. I mean, I say 2 of the 4 best teams in all of college football. I still think Georgia, Georgia, a lot of self-inflicted errors. We saw a lot of things with Georgia we were not used to seeing. And we talked about last week why that may happen, because Georgia's gotten to a point, not that they weren't here before, but I saw it a lot this season. You get to a point where you feel like you're playing more than the logo, right? It's like, we're not just playing a bunch of 5 stars. We're not just playing one of the best rosters in college football. You start looking at that Georgia G. You start thinking about that trophy case. You start thinking about what Georgia is as a program. The task becomes even more daunting, right? And a lot of teams that played Georgia this year played that way. They were intimidated. They were, let's just say, scared. Georgia was able to impose their will against them and win not just the physical matchup, but the mental matchup as well. But we knew Alabama was not going to be like that. We knew that Alabama was not going to be fazed. They were not going to be intimidated. And that this was going to be good on good, great on great, elite on elite. And that's exactly what we got. I thought Alabama did a great job after that opening drive, like I mentioned, making adjustments, because Georgia went right down the field. And I'm thinking to myself, Man, Dogs might run away with this one. Credit Bama for the adjustments made. I really felt like Bama, guys, was the aggressor in this game. Both teams went 2 for 2 on fourth down, but I felt like Bama was the team that went out there and took it. They went out there and took it, especially early, setting the tone, going for it on fourth down a couple times. Guys, we can talk about forever the play that was not reviewed, and I know that nobody in this chat has sympathy for Georgia at this point and sympathy for what the Dogs did or did not do. They could have called a timeout. They could have reviewed it. But why have review if you're not going to review a play like that? Simply put, why have review? Why then? And then later in the game, they review a play. No business in reviewing it. Why have review? That play not being reviewed was shocking on a critical fourth down. That being said, that is not why Georgia lost the football game. That is not why. Georgia lost the football game because of self-inflicted mistakes, something we did not think Georgia was, heck, even capable of. We had not seen it really all season. The fumble inside their own 20 was baffling. That was baffling. That was absolutely baffling. And give Georgia credit, by the way. They fought back. They were resilient. I mean, even with all those self-inflicted wounds, those self-inflicted errors, they had a chance late in that ball game. But against a team like Alabama, guys, you're just simply not going to overcome it. And give Bama credit. They played a clean football game. Guys, there was only one turnover in this game, and it made all the difference. Bama won the turnover margin 1-0, +1. The only turnover, again, Georgia's fumble inside the 20. That was the difference in the game. What stood out on the field of play? Bama's physicality. We talk about physicality all the time, guys, in the trenches. I mean, it's what the SEC is built on. Holding Georgia to 78 rushing yards. And I know the Dogs haven't been elite running the football this year. But 2.5 yards per carry, that's just unheard of. Unheard of for Georgia. 78 total rushing yards. I mean, Bama just 2.8 yards per carry. I thought Carson Beck, guys, was solid in this game. Not great, but solid. 21 of 29, 243. He was efficient for sure. And I mean, again, guys, you look at the stats. I mean, Georgia outgained Bama. 321 to 306. Passing yards were 243 to 192, Georgia. Bama won rushing yards, 114 to 78. Georgia, 4 for 12 on third down. Alabama, 3 for 13. Both teams, 2 for 2 on fourth down. I mean, it really came down to, guys, one team made a critical error, a self-inflicted error, and one team didn't. One team flinched, and one team didn't. And that team that flinched was the Georgia Bulldogs. And it's one mistake. It's one mistake that costs you in a game like that. It's one mistake that costs you in a game of that magnitude. And again, you got to give Bama so much credit for their growth as a football team. Again, I'm eating my crow here in this Monday. I ate a lot of it in the Discord on Saturday after the game. I'm continuing to do so because, again, I doubted Bama at every turn this season. I picked them to go 9-3. I picked them to lose to Texas. I picked them to lose to LSU. I picked them to lose to Texas A&M. I picked them to lose to Georgia. I doubted Nick Saban. I doubted, the dynasty is dead. The dynasty is ending. Doubted them at every turn. And it's just finally time to eat some crow here on this Monday. The emergence of Isaiah Bond at wide receiver, what he's meant to Alabama football over the last couple weeks. Jermaine Burton against his old team, 2 for 28 and a touchdown. I mean, and I mean, you look at this game, guys, it's like, what is Georgia, what do they need to do? I think Georgia's doing all the right things, guys. They're recruiting well. They're using the portal. It's just one of those things, man. until Nick Saban is no longer in college football, until he's no longer at Alabama, the SEC is going to continue to run through Tuscaloosa. And I had the early call on right now, Kirby Smart, the best coach in college football. Kirby Smart is that guy. Back-to-back national champions, 29 wins in a row. But you got to put respect on Nick Saban and Alabama. A classic of an SEC championship. And again, one team flinched, one team didn't. That team that flinched was the Georgia Bulldogs, and now, of course, Bama onto the college football playoff. And I mean, guys, if you're betting on anybody, who's betting against Bama right now? Who's betting against Bama? I mean, we know the roster's loaded. We know the roster's chock full of 5 stars and elite talent. We know it is. It's crazy how it all works out, guys. It's crazy how it all works out, and I certainly learned a couple of hard lessons this year. But either way, an elite SEC title game. And the only shame in it is that we don't get to see both Georgia and Alabama compete for the national title. So, Crimson Tide get the win, 27-24. The SEC season is officially in the books completely, and now we turn our attention to transfer portal, NIL, and bowl season, which is nearly upon us.